Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of BCTV. I'm your host, Kyle Ellicott. We've got a fun episode, as always, for you here on BCTV because we are talking about fintech, and more importantly, we're talking about digital assets, in particular, the one and only Bitcoin. We're going to talk a little bit about Bitcoin today, BTC, if you will, and how it may or may not be disrupting the financial industry, but really how all digital assets are starting to play a role in the disruption of the financial industry, as well as Ethereum reaches near all-time highs today. We're just a little under we're just below all-time highs for decentralized finance or DeFi total value locked, right around $61 billion. That all-time high was just over $62.5 billion as well. But we're going to be talking about Bitcoin today, so get your questions ready. Drop some comments, say hi. We'd love to hear from you. We've got an outstanding panel of co-hosts that'll be joining me today to break all of this down. So again, get your questions ready. I'll do my best to ask them in real time. With that, I'm your host, Kyle Ellicott. I'm joined by some outstanding co-hosts as well today, and a big thank you to the LaToken team and to Maria for making today's episode possible. Make sure to check us out on latoken.com to follow up from today's discussion and to hear from more speakers of the VCTV family as well. With that being said, let's just jump right in. Brett, little intro, little background for everybody.
Thanks, Kyle. Thanks guys for having me. Brett Noyce, I'm with David Reed Advisory. We advise a series of venture funds and family offices on creating pipeline for early stage investments. And as a background, I initially got into this space concerning this topic in 2014 when I worked for Tim Draper, who's obviously a big Bitcoin guy, if you will, brought me into the space. And while I was working there, I helped start a Fintech incubator program.
All right. Well, welcome back, Jose Graca. Welcome. Good, sir. A little intro, a little background for everybody.
Hi, Carl. Thank you for having me on your show. It was a pleasure. So my name is Jose Graca. I'm running today as the CEO and chairman of the BizMoney Corp, which also has the BizMoney Fund and the BizMoney TV. We do everything which is related to decentralized economics as well as business inclusion, and that is also obviously intimately connected with cryptocurrencies, although we have a different approach on that area. But definitely there is a space, and I strongly feel that it has really disrupted the financial industry, at least for now.
Wonderful. Welcome, Jose. Adrian, welcome back to the show. A little intro, a little background.
Hello, Kyle. Hello, everybody. Thank you very much for having me again. I'm Edu Niculescu, serial entrepreneur and investor. My genius zones are marketing, sales, and business development, and I love keeping my hands dirty in these areas. Besides my advisory roles and board membership slots, I'm actively involved with Cloudcoin Consortium. Cloudcoin is a post-blockchain digital currency, Faster Capital, a Dubai-based incubator accelerator for startups, Virgin Startups program in UK, where I'm a mentor, and also Sarah Global Ventures, which is a London-based venture capital firm. Happy to be here and contribute.
Wonderful. Happy to have you here as always. Last but not least, David of ProChain Capital. I know you're going to have a lot to share with us today, but before you do, a little intro, a little background for everybody.
Thank you, Kyle. Thank you to the rest of my panelists. I am David Towell, president of ProChain Capital. ProChain Capital is a hedge fund. We are multi-asset, multi-strategy, focused on the entire crypto ecosystem. Our fund invests in and trades tokens, both long and short. In addition, we invest in public equities of companies that are involved in the payment space, digital payment space, and in addition, are investing in tokens generally. And then we also have a small portion of our fund that's allocated to ventures, startup stage companies that are focused on blockchain, cryptocurrency, and digital payments.
Wonderful. Outstanding. Well, again, happy to have everybody here. Before we kick off today's discussion, I want to read some breaking news that just came through across my desk. Morgan Stanley, we talked about this a little bit ago on Blockchain and Crypto Today. as well about Morgan Stanley opening up some private funds focused on digital currencies. Well, today, Morgan Stanley has announced that their new Bitcoin-only private fund has raised $29.4 million, almost $30 million from 322 investors in its first 2 weeks. Now, this is a pretty big deal. The fund is also managed by FS Investments, along with NYDIG as the custodian on that Bitcoin as well. So this is one of 2 Bitcoin investment vehicles that Morgan Stanley has put together and will be put together for their clients as well. So with that being said, gentlemen, let's kick it off. Is Bitcoin disrupting the financial industry as Morgan Stanley raises $30 million from 322 individuals in less than 2 weeks? What do you say, David? I'm kicking it off with you, ProChain Capital.
I'm actually a little underwhelmed by that statistic.
Oh, okay.
The question is really, I mean, do the numbers in terms of how much wealth Morgan Stanley Wealth Management manages. We're talking about trillions. Then think about, oh no, I'm sorry, not trillions, billions. Then let's think about, how many investors in that wealth management platform there are versus how many invested in this. Granted, it's 2 weeks, but still, there was big hoopla. And then the last thing is the bite size of each of these investments. You got to assume these wealth management folks, yes, there are smaller ones, but there are a couple of whales in there, I'm sure. So the question really is, how well is Morgan Stanley pushing this? Do they really want in on this space, or are they still concerned? Are they advocating? How much education do they first need to give to their wealth management advisors, who will then educate their investors? And then lastly, and this may be, to me, the most interesting thing, how many of those wealth management folks have just circumvented Morgan Stanley in terms of crypto investment and just said, I'll go direct. It's very easy for me. I have Coinbase account, whatever it is, I'll go ahead and do it without them. So I'm underwhelmed. But that said, it's still important, still significant, and hopefully it will lead to more investment, I guess. In terms of your question, though.
Well, real quick, just a quick interruption. I want to make sure I had context for the 4 of you and for the audience. So I just read the headline because it literally came in as we kicked off. So yeah, so just to get a little bit more context for everybody as I was reading through the last piece of the article. So to David's point, so clients were limited to about 2.5% of their total net worth, and they had to have at least 2 million in net worth. And there was an upfront placement fee of 3% for any investments under $250,000. The average investment into that fund was about $91,000 as well. So I'm going to pause there. I just want to make sure everyone has context in the audience. Back to you, David.
Less than 2 Bitcoins a guy or a girl.
Right.
So
to you.
So again, all the comments I made, I think still generally stand. And thank you, Kyle, for the update. And maybe there'll be more updates on the granularity of this as we go on during this broadcast. But to go to the bigger question, and again, I don't want to, take a lot of airtime on this, but I do think Bitcoin is radically changing financial services. I think it is changing not only the process in terms of the underbelly, and to me that's much more exciting, although not as front page, and then also in terms of it being an investable asset class. Certainly that it's going to get a fair amount of attention, not only in terms of coverage but also in terms of actual dollars invested.
Thank you, David. Also, another headline for those who may not have tuned into Blockchain and Crypto yesterday, so April 21st. We also had BitGo 7x their insurance on Bitcoin. So their insurance was up to $100 million for Bitcoin that was stored and bought with them. It is now up to $700 million as well. Just wanted to add that fact. Brett, I saw you shaking your head and would love to hear your thoughts on Bitcoin.
Yeah,
thoughts?
well, that's a great question. Yeah, so I mean, definitely agree with David. A little underwhelming. It feels like, as far as that previous question, that this is just an add-on for the big guys. There's just a FOMO play. So I mean, the prices have obviously just skyrocketed this year for lots of reasons. So yeah, a lot of the bigger players are getting into the space finally. We'll see if that's a good or bad thing. But I mean, I don't ultimately think that Bitcoin is really disrupting conventional finance, right? Like, I think is like using this specific example, it's just a bunch of people who are kind of late to the game, and it's an add-on to, it's just one more asset class. So it's like one more thing to invest in, one more thing for Wall Street people. I don't really foresee, we're not using Bitcoin to buy coffee, which was the thing that Tim Draper always talked about when I worked there, and that we're just using it as a currency in place of USD. And we haven't reached that point. I don't foresee us reaching it anytime soon. And I think there's tons of reasons why that could potentially will never happen. Let me just, before we move on, with a caveat, not to say that I don't think it's highly disruptive and complementary to the financial system. Where I think it really has the greatest play is in other, global emerging markets where, your currency system isn't stable, right? If you're in Argentina, you're in some other country, the use of Bitcoin or, an altcoin could be a really good workaround if you're not able to enter the banking system. Like, that's where I find it disruptive. Do I see BTC in the United States being disruptive? No.
Can I push back?
Sure.
Just for a second. So I generally agree that nobody ever thought that Bitcoin was the best proxy for fiat in terms of use cases. But I think that the corporate world, and when we talk about financial world, investment banks, I think, are one piece of the puzzle. I think payment institutions are a different piece of the puzzle. And the fact that Visa and PayPal are explicitly using Bitcoin as an underlying facilitator for transactions, I think has turned a bit of that thesis on its head. So you and I may never transact in Bitcoin, but the medium through which our transaction gets processed is Bitcoin. To me, that's a major thing. It may not lead to the rise in the value of Bitcoin, but it's simply the fact that Bitcoin is being used as a utility at that point. I think that that's something pretty. I wasn't expecting that, right? I thought it was going to be something else, but clearly, since Bitcoin is the largest, most adopted, most widely held, out furthest in front in the race, it just so happened. And if that becomes the industry standard, if Bitcoin becomes, the payment industry standard by which they go ahead and process transactions, I think that, Bitcoin is going to take on another life beyond, what people were expecting.
I agree, Brett. Any back to the counter on that one? But any added thoughts?
Well said. No counter on that at this moment. No.
You got smiles all around.
I don't know that I fundamentally believe it will be Bitcoin, but I mean, obviously the evidence shows that it's the early leader, right? I just think that fundamentally it's not the best, right? So that there'd be other, and maybe David agrees, or just it looks like he agrees. So it's the current leading horse, but I don't think it's the best technology for those particular use cases.
Totally agree.
And to both of your points, right, we're talking about the disruption. So it has begun to disrupt. Whether it's long-term or short-term, I think to both of your points is still to be determined and may not be the best source, as you both said. But it has begun to disrupt this entire financial infrastructure globally, just to touch on Brett's point. Jose, to you, thank you, Brett and David. Thoughts on Bitcoin, BTC disrupting the financial industry? By the way, we're just over $1 trillion in total market cap for Bitcoin alone, just to add that fact. But go ahead, Jose.
If you look back, right, definitely Bitcoin has played a role in disrupting a few things. First of all, we suddenly got our eyes open for this blockchain technology, which if you go back and you read, let's say the behind it, you come to a conclusion that the initial blockchain was what they called Soft 1. So it already existed before Bitcoin, but it's never got to the exposure. So that's one point. What has surprised me on Bitcoin, to be honest, is that it has had quite some massive adoption all over the globe, especially from younger generations. They understand it better. I'm not a fan of the way it works. I don't believe that it will become a transaction standard. What I believe is that it's really opened eyes for an alternative. I just read a report today from Kraken, very interesting report, and they are talking about centralized money on a global scale, which is pushed by central governments, and maybe we even can come up with a central global coin. I don't know, but definitely I don't see that countries, governments up to a certain point will accept that Bitcoin becomes the standard of this whole industry. But that is, their interest. I don't know if it's in the interest of the user at all, but their personal interest is really not to let us go beyond. We don't know when they are going to take some actions, but I think Turkey banned it now, and we will see gradually other countries maybe following up. But even with all those things, one thing is sure, that it disrupted in essence that we have an alternative that nobody expected that it came so far as it came today, and we also don't know how far it will go from today on forward. That's something which is in the air. There are literally, I would say maybe a million tokens. I have never followed it up, but in essence, the top 5 are the only ones that are really essential. And I still say that I'm looking for something new, okay, that basically will become, let's say, the Bitcoin 2, an alternative, and either government pushed or non-government pushed, whatever that is.
Well, and the top 5 hold the most market cap, to your point, but also there's several others that play a unique utility role in some way, shape, or form. Just to add on to Jose's point, and also remember, everybody that is listening, we also had PayPal turn on the buy crypto button yesterday in Venmo, opening up to 77 million people in the U.S. alone to buy, sell, and peer-to-peer transact in some way, shape, or form, Bitcoin, Ethereum, Litecoin, and I believe Bitcoin Cash. I feel like I'm missing one, but I know that those were the 4. So that's also a very big play in this entire conversation, is now that is involved. So whether it's used on a day-to-day transaction to all points, that's still to be determined as things grow. But nonetheless, it's now there. It's now there at a very mass scale. I mean, take in PayPal, we won't overlap customers, but PayPal opened it up to their entire 300 million customers and 30 million merchants.
Hopefully they do better than Morgan Stanley did.
I believe they have.
And by
as well.
But when we talk about the top 5, we're now including Dogecoin, which I don't know if anybody on this broadcast is so supportive of that.
Yes, that is a good point. I mean, when we look at total market cap, and according to Masari, as I have them open right now, I mean, total market cap, top 5 we're looking at in terms of trading volume. Let me get the market cap here for us. But of course, we've got Bitcoin, Ethereum. Again, this is market cap to those that are listening. Bitcoin, Ethereum, BNB, Tether, and then XRP, Cardano, Dogecoin, Polkadot, Uniswap, Litecoin, followed by Bitcoin Cash as number 11 for those on the top 11 out there as well, just to spread a little bit of a gap for everybody. Adrian, I'm sorry, I've been throwing stats out here left and right. Don't want to leave you hanging. Thoughts on Bitcoin disrupting the financial industry? What are your thoughts? Oh, Adrian, we got you on mute real quick if you can. There you go.
Well, sorry for that. I don't think that Bitcoin itself is the disruptor of the financial industry. Its time has passed. It's becoming, of course, a very volatile asset, but that's it. What Morgan Stanley is doing, they are translating Bitcoin to non-tech people and to people used to deal with a bank. And I believe that they wrap Bitcoin into a lot of commission fees and things like that. And I would say if for somebody who's investing, let's say up to $100,000, is uh, as safe as dealing with Morgan Stanley to, I don't know, to use LA Token or Binance or another established platform. They are very different than they were 2-3 years ago. So the security of funds, reserves in case of hacks, things like that. And I don't know what kind of value they will add to the table, just that they are translating this Bitcoin language and Bitcoin opportunity to the people who just want to deal with the bank, which is anyway okay. I'm also looking to see which of the coins will become the really global adopted currency. Of course, you know that I'm involved with Cloudcoin, and we want to fill this gap. But I'm looking also at any other coin in the market who is doing steps into this direction. We shall see, of course.
We shall see, indeed. Guys, I want to kind of open it up to each of you. I mean, look, we've all been having conversations about this particular digital currency. We've been talking about the blockchain industry for some time altogether. We've seen all the headlines. We've seen all this news. I mean, there's a lot happening here. This insurance bump from BitGo is a big deal. The PayPal news is big. To David's point, Morgan Stanley is a little lackluster, but nonetheless, this stuff is moving. I mean, I want to open it up to the floor, your thoughts in general, but maybe where do we go from here? You know, how do we look at the second half of 2021 when it comes to Bitcoin and the financial industry? And again, on a global scale, the US and certain countries may be different, but on a global scale, where does this go? We've seen issues in Venezuela, Argentina. We've seen Turkey and what's happening there. We've seen how this is playing in China, throughout Southeast Asia, how it's not necessarily playing, but kind of is in India. It's all over the place. So I want to open it up to each of you to give your thoughts as to what does this look like for the second half of the year. Bitcoin's role, BTC, whether that be the token or the blockchain network, in the financial industry. David, I'm going to come to you last, David. I'm going to come to you last. Brett.
Yeah, let me just make some general observations as a person who's been around it for a few years now. It's always felt like the whole blockchain space has been like, I don't know, I always say like, what, 6 steps forward, 12 back. It always seems to go through these, times of exuberance. 2017 was a big time for us, as we got introduced with Law Token and helped with their ICO and all that type of stuff. So I've seen the booms and busts. It feels like we've hit this point of like near or mass adoption. So it honestly, it feels like things are different, but I inherently am skeptical, right? It's just kind of been burned. So I feel like anybody that's been in the space for a long time is kind of just, you kind of like lose that exuberance. I see all these like people that are like new to it or getting excited about it, and everyone just loves cryptocurrencies. And it's like, you love them because you're going up and you know nothing about them, right? So those are my kind of general feelings about kind of where we are. I know that's not real technical, or it's just kind of just, feelings about what's going on. I feel like, Bitcoin has and continues to be the trailblazer for this industry. And so for the foreseeable future, I guess it will be, whether I agree with that or not. I think the other thing, and my other thought was, from a venture standpoint, you always got to be thinking about what's next. And I don't know about Adrian's project, or a company he's working with, but it's, I think for people that are in venture and early stage investing, you have to kind of think about like, where are the holes in the system, and where does, Bitcoin fall short, and can it be usurped by a different technology and a different platform, a different protocol?
Agreed. Jose.
Well, I think Brad touched a very important point. One of the things that I don't agree with, I would say the grand majority of all these coins, is the way they handle the transactions, the protocol itself. It's not fast. It's really not easy to handle. Even those tokens to store it and hold it, whatever you want to do, it's really not easy to handle. So I've learned that humans like to, in essence, to have an easy life on what they do, and I feel that it came very fast, very far where we are today, but I don't see it as a let's say global protocol for sure, because today Visa, as an example, is able to process much more than than any token on the market or any cryptocurrency. So in essence, what I'm always saying is that yes, I like the phenomenon. I think everybody is in because it makes money. Some people are like more like as an alternative, and you can store. But as far as it will come to a standard global adoption for day-to-day use, we will need to see if that will ever happen because of these transaction hurdles.
Well, and thankfully we've got some of the infrastructure being upgraded and updated to support that as well, right? When you look at the Lightning Network and what they have done, including Zap and Strike and some of the things that has been done in that company and others, there's some work to be done and has been done, but more to still be put in place. But nonetheless, Jose, that's a great point, great opportunity for those looking to build and or invest in this industry. Layer 2s, scaling, scalability, focus on it, do a lot in it, help everybody. With that being said, Adrian, any thoughts in terms of the second half? And then David, you're up next, so get your thoughts brewing. Adrian, to you. Adrian, wonderful stats.
Okay, sorry. I see a major milestone in July. So many voices, they are speaking about what will happen with Ethereum burn in July, and somehow it will be a huge concentration of events around June, July. And what will happen after that? Either the market will consolidate or the bull run will be even bigger than it is right now. I will repeat myself by using an example that now every breed of dogs has a coin. Besides Doge, we have Shiba Inu, Akita Inu, Husky, and other things. And these projects are copy paste. They have huge supplies and very low price. And who knows what else will happen. And of course, some of these projects will not survive, but as long as they come to the next exchanges, the price grows. And if you can be very early, you have a profit anyway. So either we will see a big consolidation or a huge bull run. If people are thinking about the bear market, I don't think that we'll have a real bear market in 2021. One big danger is what I'm calling the institutional bubble. The fight from institutional investors to get a piece of Bitcoin, to store as many Ethereum possible, to drain the exchanges. And this can drive the price maybe too high in a non-sustainable manner, and a crash can come from this direction. But apart from now, this market just is catching the steam. We will see a lot of in the DeFi market, we'll see a lot of things implemented which will assure somehow the funds of the investors. So we will see less and less rug pulls, and it will be a very exciting year in the crypto market, crypto and digital currency market.
I like it. David.
So since the topic of conversation or the topic of this discussion is limited by its title to Bitcoin, I really would like to go ahead and focus my comments there, because we've been talking. Let's take the use case out for a second and let's talk about store of value, um, and the there is there is momentum on the store of value side for price appreciation coming from, I'd say, more thoughtful institutional corporate investors to, for good reasons, put some of their assets into it. And hopefully, as someone who is a Bitcoin bull at this point, um, that those reasonings continue, those thoughts continue, and activity continues. So we start to see, less of the outliers, and the most kind of forward-thinking companies putting money of treasury into Bitcoin, and we start to see much more regular way companies with much more conservative um, philosophies in terms of use of capital putting money into it. However, and I do want to go to the news of the day, the Morgan Stanley news. People have been super excited and continue to be about the advent of a Bitcoin ETF, and we've got a ton of applications now. I don't know how many big ones there are. There's got to be like 6 or 7, being promoted by the largest asset managers that are out there. If the ETF approval in this country goes off with a dud, and there isn't a big boom, it's certainly possible, that the Bitcoin boom, in terms of just a store of value proposition, pulls back. Like I said earlier, with respect to the use of Bitcoin by some of the payment companies, maybe there's a fundamental reason for price appreciation because it's being used for something beyond the store of value. But I am extremely, sensitive at this point, not necessarily to the daily technicals of the trading and, to things like, price movement, volatility. I'm more concerned now about, the growth of the investor base for the asset class. And again, this is a worldwide class, so I'm, my comments until now have been, largely limited to entities in the United States. But certainly, there are other parts of the world to go ahead and pick up the slack, if the U.S. slacks off, or, vice versa. They could go ahead and, tank it also. So I think it's really important to watch, the activity over the next, bunch of months as it becomes a more investable asset, and see what the uptick is, on the takers, as the accessibility comes through. So the Venmo stuff, those data points are going to be very important. And then the ETFs is going to be important. And then the other ways that, folks could go ahead and invest in the asset, is really going to be, I think, the most important data to watch.
I love it. I'm excited about it. This is an exciting year to be in this industry, and I will pause for Brett.
Well, I wanted to actually have a question for David. So what are the primary data sources that you're looking at as a hedge fund?
We actually split the responsibilities between qualitative and quantitative data. So I have a partner who is incredibly quantitative, comes from a long crypto background, Stanford PhD, the type. And he's a very relatable, normal guy as well. And he's the quantitative guy. And he is well connected with the underbelly, I would say, of the crypto world, which I think most people assume is huge. Meanwhile, it's really, in my opinion, really, really small. And he takes care of all that. He is a data monster, vacuum. And I'm much more of a qualitative person. And we essentially, sharpen each other, all day long. And so, I could have a qualitative opinion based on headlines I'm reading, stories I'm reading, people I'm talking to, and he could be like, "You're totally wrong. You're totally wrong. The hype is much greater than the granular data," and vice versa, by the way. And so, to me, see, some of the things that Jose was talking about and Adrian was talking, you guys are visionaries. I am not a visionary. All right. I'm in this simply for, today's profit and loss, or this month's or this quarter's P&L. That's where I'm at. That's what my investors pay us to do. And so, I can't be thinking about Bitcoin 4.0. I'm focused on Bitcoin the now. Yes, there is part of me that is constantly thinking about 2.0, 3.0, and so forth. But where can we make money today, this month, this quarter, this year, is much more important to me than the moonshot.
I love it. Well, with that being said, to the moon we go, ladies and gentlemen, and I want to come around for closing thoughts as we reach the top of the hour and where you can be found online, as this is an exciting topic. We're talking about, again, BTC or Bitcoin today and how it has disrupted or has not disrupted the financial industry. But in your closing thoughts, we'd love to hear anything else you have and how it or others that you may want to predict may really put some pressure on the financial industry in the second half of this year. Jose, let's start with you. Closing thoughts, your prediction of maybe something else other than Bitcoin that may be a disruptor in the financial industry. And then in general, where can everyone find you to continue the conversation?
So my closing thoughts goes for an epic which didn't come true, but everybody was hoping that more or less it's come true. And it's related to Libra, the coin of Facebook. I think if it would have come to market, the whole mix that we have today would be completely different than we are facing now. It didn't come, but it will not say that it may not come in the future. So, and we can also look at Amazon, and they can also come one day with the coin themselves. So I think the big disruption, my closing thoughts goes through what will happen with Bitcoin or with Ethereum or all the other coins once we get a social adopted coin from a major player. Are people going to shift because suddenly it becomes a payment instrument, or are people going to still stay with the initiator, which is Bitcoin? You can find me on LinkedIn mostly. Just search for Jose Graca or search for BizMoney. I'm an open networker, so reach out whenever you want. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jose. Adrian. We may have lost Adrian there, so we'll come back to him. Brett.
Yeah, I don't know that I have any amazing closing thoughts here. I guess maybe let me, as I put my thoughts here together real quick. I've been in the industry for a fair amount of time, so it has its ups and downs, right? So just keep that in mind. We're definitely in an up, and it seems like we're getting to a point of real mass adoption. We'll see where that goes. Things in this space change very quickly, and I think we have a long ways to go. And there's a lot of great opportunity for the entrepreneurs out there that are looking to get into this space. I could be found at Brett Noyce on LinkedIn, Telegram, Twitter. So come find me there.
I love it. All right. Adrian, welcome back. Closing thought, where can you be found? Quick closing thought, where can you be found?
My closing thought will be a follow-up of what David said, that he's about the actual profit, not necessarily about the future, because there are so many things which cannot be predictable and which are out of control. Even if we have technical knowledge, if we see all the graphs. So I don't bet a lot on the future. That's why I'm not using in my strategies the options, the futures. So I always bet on the asset's value. And of course, my closing thought is to learn as much as you can about this new industry if you want not just to survive in it, but to thrive until something better will be invented. I'm on LinkedIn mostly, so please contact me there, and can't wait to come back to new shows in the VCTV family.
Thank you, Adrian. David.
Yeah, I want to make a very simple and clear point, which is in order for 2021 to be interesting and exciting for Bitcoin's got to get over 60,000 within the next couple of weeks. I think if it languishes, it's going to become, kind of a boring, balance of 2021 unless there is, some, incredible uptake, in the asset. I think the price at this point, and I don't need to sound like a statistician, but the momentum is very important for what people consider to be, a growth asset, a momentum asset. So that's my parting shot. In terms of finding me, I can be found at the handle that's on the screen on Twitter at ProChain Capital. In addition, you can email me at david@procaincap.com. It's david@procaincap.com.
Thank you very much, Brett, Jose, Adrian, David. Thank you very much to our audience. Thank you for tuning in. If you like what you heard, make sure you click subscribe, share the episode, give it a like. Also, check us out on latoken.com to hear from today's speakers and all speakers of the VCTV family. As David mentioned, he and all of us can be found on social media at our respective names and handles at the bottom of the screen as well. Please do reach out. We'd love to hear from each and every one of you. Please add context where you heard us, where you met us, what you would like to continue the conversation about, especially with Jose and looking for those layer twos and that's those scaling solutions out there as well. We'd all love to hear more about that, DeFi, and much, much more. With that being said, everyone have a wonderful day. I'm your host, Kyle Lickott. Big thank you to the Token team and to Maria for making today's episode possible. We'll see you back here tomorrow with more VCTV. Everyone have a great day.